opportunities and unity. No frustration from brutality. With our black nation, a reality.
This is my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective. And welcome to another episode of the New African Perspective, the show that is dedicated to the liberation of new African people. I am your host, Brother Prophecy, and as always, I got the best backup that you can possibly have, and that is none other than the President and Vice President of the Republic of New Africa, and there are none other than
Mama
Okay.
Mama Ayo, free the land.
Definitely. And we are a part of something called the New African Independence Movement. And y'all probably figured that out by now. We advocate for land, independence, self-determination, reparation, and we're trying to establish an economic system that is not about the exploitation of everybody, but about making sure everybody has all of the resources and everything that we need so we can rise to our highest level of human potential. But, oh man, we got another great show lined up for us today. And as we've been doing for these last month or so, we've been going over this document, this part of the Code of Umoja, which is our Constitution. But in our Constitution, they have laid out the aims and goals of our revolution. And we're at aim number 20. Let me see if I can pull this up so we can all look at it and read it together. But yeah, that goal, that aim number 20 is, where is it? Here we go. Number 10, that is there we go, to protect and promote the personal dignity and integrity of the individual and his natural rights. There it is, to protect and promote the personal dignity and integrity of the individual in his natural rights. That is objective number 10 on the goals of the revolution. So what do y'all think about this particular aim of the revolution, of our revolution?
That's definitely speaking to our human right.
We want a society where each person is treated with the utmost respect. We treat one another with the utmost respect, meaning, yeah, we may be different. We talked about our salubrious diversity last week. We may be different, yet we respect our differences that don't compromise universal law and order and don't compromise morality. You know what I'm saying? That does not compromise high moral character. Anything else, we have to respect one another. We have to respect one another. We have to respect our different personalities, because we have many different personalities. We're not always all going to think the same. We're not all going to process information the same way. We're not, that's just not our reality. So to me, it just highlights respecting each person to the utmost. It always reminds me of one of my favorite hip hop songs from our dear ministers of education. When you know that your people are God, when you know that your people are, you treat them with the utmost, with dignity and integrity. You don't lie. We don't lie. We don't cheat amongst one another, because we know that does not produce good fruit. It does not. And because it really speaks to us that we uphold dignity and integrity within ourselves, to make sure that as we are dealing with one another, it's smooth transitions, it's smooth transactions, it's smooth communication. We can't harbor on these negative personality traits or these poor characters and think that we're about to build anything. We have to develop high moral character. Our Constitution calls for high moral character, We want to move in integrity. We want to move in dignity, meaning we respect ourselves as we move. I carry myself with dignity. I do not disrespect my people. I do not disrespect my bloodline. I do not disrespect my nation. I come forward in the utmost regard, the utmost respect, the utmost love, the utmost light, you know. And
Exactly. Mama, you got anything you want to add to that?
I definitely concur with that particular aims of the revolution, because we always say from a holistic healing perspective that these are the positive things that we want to reintroduce and to build and to fortify in the new African nation. There's a lot of us that we are guilty of many things on a daily basis, because those are just the way in which we react to the stimuli in the environment. So we have to hold ourselves accountable, hold the people in our homes and our family and our community accountable, and be able to be that that change that you're asking everybody, every one of us as new Africans, to be, to work on those what we call those little glitches in our personality, glitches, contradictions in our interactions with one another, and work on it graciously, because we have coping mechanisms that are not conducive to evolving ourselves into better human beings. When we're talking about a universal law that all human beings have the right to exist, all human beings have the right to breathe the air, to be a part of a culture, to speak their own language, to eat the foods that they've developed as a culture, to marry, to have education, to have free water, medical care, just to be, to live, to be, and to be, of course, good people, good people. So I definitely concur with that. And what does that look like in the new African nation? Because it doesn't look like what we're witnessing in the society today. It will not look like that. It's going to be better than what we see, because we have a lot of behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, practices that are what we call synthesizing a whole culture that has been imposed on us, been impressed upon us under a captive, as we have been under a captive. We are a captive nation under these particular regulations, rules, laws, expectations, cultural values. That's not who we are. We're trying to develop into something better. With that, I yield.
Definitely. When I look at kind of the brilliance of our ancestors in producing documents like that, I really see the balance that they put into this, because a lot of African principles, new African principles that we are integrating into our new nation has to do with the collective. It's focused on the collective, making sure that the collective is more important than the individual, making sure that we are selfless as new African citizens. But at the same time, it has the wisdom to say, even though the collective is what's most important, is paramount, uh, um, we're not focusing on the collective to the detriment of the individual. We still promote and we still protect the dignity and integrity of the individual. So it really anticipates possible contradictions that could occur before they even happen, especially when you're in a society that does not necessarily care about the collective, and you have so many negative characteristics that we have learned and we're trying to shed. Well, it's always possible when you move from focusing on the individual to the collective. If we still have some of those negative aspects with us from this old society, we bring that in there, then we could easily go from, okay, we focus on the collective at the detriment of the individual. That can easily happen, especially when you have a Eurocentric mindset that we have not completely shedded. So it anticipates that, be like, no, we value the collective. The collective, we have to be selfless. We have to put the group before the individual, but at the same time, we're not going to disrespect. We're not going to put down. We're not going to overlook the individual. Also, there has to be a balance, and it addressed that. And I think that's beautiful because it anticipates things before they even happen. So yeah, I'm feeling that a lot. To me,
and that paradigm, Brother Prophecy and Sister Sa, is really, really important, because we don't have an everyday example. We don't have a historical example of what New African culture looks like. We have had to do our research. We have had to study. We have had to travel. Some of us have had to live and understand what we call the African cosmology of life and living. And that is not something that we readily have access to, because you always hear the African paradigm saying it is part of the collective, but it definitely means that every individual has a responsibility to the collective. So you do your work as a New African, because you are part of the collective. It is almost like that circle of knowledge. If you're ill and you're out of order, it affects the entire community. It affects the entire nation. It affects the entire race. And that's that
Right.
dissonance, that contradiction, that there's more negative than positive. It just means that it's something that we have to keep working at, because we are battered people, broken people, socially manipulated people. And we're trying to free up a mindset so that we can look like we can look at each other through the collective eye as well as an individual eye. And it's with love, self-determination, as you spoke about, as we always speak about, knowing that the mission and the purpose of me being in this time, in this space with you and others, is to help turn the tides of history towards righteousness, unity, protection of the women, children, and the elders, loving on one another, making sure that we're healthy and whole. That's work. That's not just words. That's work.
And see, once again, when you talk about words like dignity and integrity, that is wanting to return back to our original selves. Okay. Us in alignment with universal law and order, us wanting to operate at our optimal. Like, if we know those of us that know our history, and I'm holding us 100% accountable. Okay. Because it's difficult to hold people that don't know accountable. But for those of us who know, which is a lot of us, because this is the information age, we should, since we know that all of these different things is going on in our society, right? And we know that we are under attack as African people. We know this. We should want to operate at our optimal, do what is necessary to be operating at our optimal, returning back to our greatness, remembering who we are, recharging ourselves up in terms of who we are. You know what I mean? Rebuilding who we are, since we're so broken. For those of us that know, like, why would we want to remain broken? Why would we want to perpetuate disunity when we know that it's causing our communities to crumble? You know what I mean? And if we know that takes us being 100% responsible for self, that's our responsibility. Don't do it, it's going to continue. It's going to continue. And like Mama Ayo said, it's holistic. Each person is 100% necessary. So if you have just one person and they got one thing off, everything is broken. So to me, that's a lot of weight. To me, each one of us holds a lot of weight in terms of how this is going to pan out. I yield back.
Definitely. Wise words is always. Go to our audience. I see Brother Obafemi is in the house. How you doing, brother? Always good to hear from you. Free land to you. You also say peace and blessing, everyone. Peace and blessing to you too, brother. Stephen Biko Muhammad, how you doing? Free the land to you.
Free the land.
My will by any means necessary. And for some reason, on certain pages, Facebook is not allowing us to see who shared certain comments. I don't know why it's doing that, but this is a Facebook user. Black Power Summit this weekend in Mega Eversville. Free the land. That's Florida for all those who don't know. We got the Black Power Summit going on, and that's I think that is headed by the Black Liberation movement out of Mississippi. Yeah, northern Mississippi. Big ups to Brother Patrick, Brother Lumumba. How you doing, brother? That might be who wrote that post. Melly Queen, free the land, comrades and family. How y'all doing today? Thank y'all for joining us today. The show has been shared and tagged. Thank you, Melly Queen. That's what I'm talking about. So, Madam President, what we got on tap for the show today?
Okay, so since today is 9/11, when Brother Prophet said, today is 9/11, I'm like, oh,
it is, isn't it?
The first thing that popped in my mind was the Durban Declaration.
Whoa.
That was written and took place back. There was a convention back in 2001 from August 31st all the way up to September the 8th. It was a major deal, y'all. The document Durban 400. You got to check it out. But I thought it was quite interesting that a couple of days later, boom, you got 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Something to look into. So we talked about the Durban Declaration in the Cadre Corner. And then for our main topic, we're going to discuss the importance of Pan Afrikanism. This is going to be an interesting discussion.
A
lot of going out here, and we got to clear it up from a new African perspective, okay?
Definitely.
All right, and then in our Black Power file, we're going to honor Martin Delaney. Okay.
Woo, yes.
So, that's what's up. That's what's going on.
Yeah. So I know you are the news breaker. What's happening?
So actually, I went to a story that's actually old, but I just wasn't aware of it. So, y'all excuse me if I'm bringing up some old news, but I thought since this kind of happened close to where we are, it happened in DeSoto County at a DeSoto school. Matter of fact, the school is called Morant High School, where a white parent, a white woman, white mother of one of the students at this particular high school jumped on a 15-year-old black girl at the school. And initially, white woman just went home, not arrested, no penalty, nothing. But the black girl was suspended and she was charged, criminally charged. And it wasn't until like a black media outlet, a nationwide black media outlet, got a hold to the actual video and put them on blast before the school system did anything about it. Before eventually after they were so embarrassed because the video is quite blatant, it's obvious. This white woman came and they, jumped on this, little African queen. And, so eventually they charged the white mother and they stopped they reversed the charges on the sister. But I'm gonna try to pull this video up to see if I can see if we can show it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And I was like surprised. I didn't hear about this. And it was right in DeSoto County.
Interesting.
Right.
Get your mama.
Yeah. So if you could see in that video, basically, white woman just went up and stole on her, started punching her. She started the fight,
Right.
and yeah, and initially the report from the school was that there was a parent who was involved in a conflict or between students, and the parent was trying to break it up. That's what they said. The parent was trying to break it up. And what I saw on that particular video was this white fist flying in the air,
You
hitting this young sister. So what y'all think about this particular case?
you said that was the claim that the parent was trying to break it.
Yeah, before the video came out, that's what they said. They said the parent was trying to break it up.
Seems like she opened up fire for her half-breed child.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And this is a Cormorant High School in DeSoto County,
Whoa.
Mississippi. Yep. So y'all got any comments?
That's a lot of different levels of course, mismanagement. You're talking about proper communication, because anytime that would happen here in the public school system here in where we are in Ida B. Wells and elsewhere, that parent would automatically be charged. So again, is this an example of hidden racism? Because clearly, and I'm sure that the parents have approached the school as well. But that is something that's just not done. Now I could see it if two schoolmates were fighting, but that's clearly not what we saw. We saw a parent that was probably angry about whatever it was, because we don't know the background information. And came up and swing on a student that's clearly younger than her. She was supposed to be stopped by the security and taken away, and parents meet and this resolution. You don't just get suspended from school. Now, if they put out a report that she was bullying, etc., but that's clearly not the case. So we need to just look at what the facts that we saw and hold the proper authorities accountable, which you see. Remember, I don't care what is going on. There's one set of rules and laws for people who don't look like us, and another set of laws for people who are the descendants of enslaved Africans. I yield.
I mean, they're going to support their own. Okay, this is a white lady. Even if she has a black child and all of that, this is a white lady. For one, so we already know that. My first thing that came to my mind is the parent of the child that she put her hands on. See, because in my world, that parent, now it would have been a whole thing, okay?
Yeah.
Would have been, forget police. We police are. That's the first thing. That's why my eyes was like.
Exactly.
After that, okay, yeah. Somebody with somebody else's house. I'm just saying.
Yep, that's and people knew her because I kept hearing in the background, so and so, come get your mom.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. I seen a whole nother vision, but yeah. I already know the police, the law enforcement, or however that go at the school, they handle that all the way wrong and unjust, because that's just what the system that we live in. Like the fact that who got charged, the girl got charged.
Yeah, initially the girl who got assaulted.
Yeah, that's about right. You know what I mean? You can get some type of charge by leaving your foot. I learned this in Memphis, okay? If a child is not sitting properly in their chair and their foot is out in the walkway.
Wow.
Children be getting written up for stuff like that. I mean, records for things like that. So I just can't even imagine. I already know. It's just real interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it, it really goes along. It reinforces everything that we talk about every week, about why we need our own schools, about how we're mistreated, about how we're looked at differently and we're treated differently. It's just an obvious example. A lot of times you can hear something about something, but when you see it, it's like a shock factor. Just like I know a lot of times there might be a report of like a famous athlete got arrested for fighting his girlfriend, and it's just what it is. It's just a report, but then a video comes out and now everybody's shocked, and he gotta, gets kicked out of the team and all of these things. And the only difference was, one, you heard about it, but when you actually seen it, it makes it real to you. So these type of things we've been knowing, but it just, when you look at it, it makes it so clear, so obvious that somebody can get jumped on by an adult. A child can get jumped on by an adult. One of the number one priorities of a school is to protect your children. But if you're a black child who gets assaulted by a white woman, not the precious white woman, the jewel of white supremacy, oh no, and it's a real dynamic with these white women. It's, white women have destroyed whole towns just because they didn't like the way somebody looked at them. So this psychology of white supremacy and the white woman is some serious. But
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it goes right along with everything that we're saying about the system. They had no problem looking at a situation where an adult attacked a child on school property, on school ground, and say, okay, adult, you go home, but child, you get arrested, you get suspended, you get all of this. And it takes them being exposed by a national media outlet, not even the local people, not even the people who actually filmed it. So yeah, I mean, it is, what it is. It's just another prime example of why we need our own everything, especially our own school system, because we can say,
Especially.
yeah, we say they failing us, but they've been failing us. It ain't nothing new.
I mean, this is expected.
Exactly. I'm gonna go to a couple of comments. See, Bo Money, how you doing, brother Bo Money? Free land. We are Pan African in a sense and scope. Yet our ideology is New African Revolutionary Nationalism. Of course,
We are
definitely.
nationalist Pan African freedom fighters. Free the land.
Exactly. You see, Donald Antonio Smith, free the land, all the way from Baltimore. Okay, Baltimore. That's like they call that Harriet Tubman City, something like that.
Yes, exactly. Close.
All right, Baltimore. Good to see you checking in, brother Donald. But Money, he said, by any means necessary, strong, safe, and sound. Yourself, how he was responding to our brother. Wow, I am really tripping because, baby, let me be quiet. I guess she's Melly Queen responding from that videotape. This white woman want to go out all ham on a 15-year-old child, which is just ridiculous. I understand, it's you can be speechless from this.
I thought of myself as a parent.
Exactly. No, that's not what you're going to do.
Huh?
Because you could have scheduled a meeting between parents if anything was happening to your child and there was an issue.
Exactly. I mean, it's just a rule in schools. You don't put your hands on another person's child. That's just, and the thing is, I've seen cases where children were just way out of line, done things. But this 15-year-old girl was, everything about her posture, her reaction, about everything was defensive, was, I don't really, was like, it was almost like, oh, I got a grown woman here. I don't know what happened before that, but it was like when she was confronted with that grown woman, she went into, you, my elder, let me retreat. Let me get out of you. Let me stop. You know what I'm saying? And the lady punched her, started punching her. So it was just, man, it was just ridiculous, Let me see. She would not have made it to even hear about the charges. That's crazy as hell. No way. I feel you on that.
I feel that one. My blood is boiling right now as a parent. Like, it is no way. I want to know the background story. Like, because I know that didn't go untouched.
Yeah, I know.
It might have been untouched from the police perspective.
Mm-hmm.
People perspective. Oh no, I don't where that happening.
I know exactly. I was trying to find more information on this. I didn't have enough time to go as deep as I wanted to, but basically, I saw different news articles, and I saw the mother on the news expressing how upset she was about it. But I couldn't even really find the name of the white lady who assaulted them. So all I saw was like a parent of a student.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So I mean, it
happened. If that had been one of us, the name would have been out there immediately.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Melly Queen, not happening in my lifetime with mine.
It'd be some of us too, but it just end up on World Star Hip Hop versus the
Yeah.
Like, so I done seen some things now.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's all I really got for today. But we're gonna be talking about this declaration. What's it called? The Durban? Is that what it is?
Durban Declaration.
Declaration. I know a lot of y'all never heard of that because I'm just learning about this myself. But wow, it'd be surprising all the things we don't know. That's the beautiful thing about learning, man. There's so much you don't know, regardless of how much you think you know. You always got more. But we'll be right back right after this. This is the New African Perspectives. Free the land, y'all.
I am our winner.
I fight for land, independence, and for reparations. We gotta do for self-determination.
Being independent is a very, very good thing because it means that you don't have to be dependent, especially on people who don't like you. I mean, growing your own food, like teaching your own babies our real history, the real truth.
As a people, we are not grown unless we have independence. We are not grown as long as we living under another man's system, operating in his way of things, his laws, and his ordinances that support his rule, actually. So to me, it's not the importance of self-determination and independence. It is mandatory.
We could make a change, get off our ass, do something else. Go get some land together, grow our food and do for self. Create our own stores, our own banks, start building wealth. Break them generational curses and start healing self.
Study the writings, speeches, documents of our freedom fighters in order to free our neo-colonialized minds. This is the Cadre Corner.
All right, Mama Ayo, you got it.
I think today we're talking about the Durban Declaration. And this is a declaration that came out of a World Conference on Racism that occurred in the year 2001 between August 31st and, of course, September 8th, somewhere around there, in 2001. And you had civil society, you had all types of organizations and people who gathered in Durban, South Africa, to spend these days together to come up with a statement about the inequalities, the injustice of man against man, and coming out with a statement, because as we said, it's the World Conference on Racism. And if everybody knows, racism is part and parcel of capitalism, imperialism, white supremacy, and racism, and all of the people that it affected around the world, because it's a world conference. And we had a group of people that, of course, came to Durban, South Africa, called the Durban 400, made up of civil society, again, organizations, individuals, students who did not receive any type of compensation or any type of what we call stipends to even get to this particular event. And they came out with a Durban Declaration that talked about um, racism, xenophobia, all the things that happen, prejudicial, actions against people, particularly those of uh, Black people, what we call African people around the world, as a result of enslavement, as a result of capitalism, as a result of colonialism. And it was very, very interesting because they were able to come up with a very strong statement that called for, and they were talking about reparations to Africans who had been directly affected through through colonialism, through the transatlantic slave trade, and who have suffered under those conditions today. And they came with a very strong statement about reparations. And they presented it often because, the United Nations is the United Nations. Some of the very people who are guilty of those actions, guilty of those particular um, inhumane acts of Black people against uh, uh, by what we call the European powers, were there. And we had, of course, two countries to walk out. Of course, that was the United States and Israel, because they felt that some of the statements was anti-Semitic. If you read the document yourself, the Durban Declaration, you'll find out I didn't denote any words that were anti-Semitic. However, we know the history, the secret relationships of Jews and Blacks in this country. I mean, we have the evidence what happened. So we know that that was a very dynamic time. 2 days later, as Sister Sa says, we had a whole event that changed the world and locked down the United States, which was called 9/11. But it was a very, very uh, very, very instrumental, because it has set up a precedent, and which has been re-examined. Things have happened in the past 22 years. We have other groups that have latched on to this particular document against racism around the world. And surprisingly enough, the United Nations is what we call handing out little gestures. There are meetings that have occurred over the years. There was the International Decade of the African, which we're trying to call for a second international decade, because there's not many things that have happened. We recently went to a conference that has been built upon by this Durban Declaration, and finding out all the people of the African world, the Afro-Cubanos, the Afro-Brazilians, the Ecuadorians, the Afro-Brazilians, the Afro-Puerto Ricans, the Afro-Bahamians, all in all, have called for the world to begin, their countries to begin to institute measures that, just gives them reparations, acknowledges the racism that exists in their country. And it's just a very, very powerful document. There's a film, if you type in Durban Declaration or the Durban 400, you will find a beautiful, beautiful documentary, and you will see that people like M. Buff, in Cobra, founding mothers and fathers of this particular movement, Dorothy Benton Lewis. You're going to see a lot of people, Comrade Worrell. You're going to see a lot of people who are in the background of this particular document, and even our own founding father, Imari Obadeli, because without some of those people being a part of NCOBRA, a part of the Republic of New Africa, and other organizations, of course, this particular beautiful conglomeration of brothers and sisters and individuals and supporters that went to Durban, South Africa, would not have made that stand. And I encourage everyone, read the document. It's very, very powerful. It's built upon a lot of different demands and observations, and it is still 23 years in the makings, brothers and sisters. So that's telling you the United Nations. We got to do a whole analysis of the United Nations. Here you have all the countries of the world who are affected by enslavement, colonialism, and yet you are slow to move and react. 22 years later, we have made strides on paper and several, small gestures, but there has not been an address to what we call reparations for the descendants of enslaved Africa, particularly new Africans, at home and abroad. And with that, I yield.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean that's some great information. I did not know. And it's my understanding, you can actually download this document on the internet if you just go to do a Google search for the Durban Declaration.
Yes.
You can download it. And how long is this document, Sar, you was telling me?
It's about.
Hold on. I got it right here. Let me see.
About 200 pages, 300.
I think it's like 136 or something like that. Can y'all hear me? Did you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 136 pages. It's not.
Okay.
It's not. But it's very thorough though. They
Mm-hmm.
went in for that conversation and came up with some powerful 136 claims of saying like this is what's taking place in the world and this what needs to and this is the resolution. Like it's very powerful.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's the Durban Declaration, and you can also watch the documentary on it. You said it was the Durban 400.
Durban
Yes.
400.
Wonderful documentary.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing today.
Yeah, that's powerful though. That Durban 400. You check that out. You gonna see. Read the document. Check that out. You're going to see why we're making the correlation of 9/11 because there was big things happening in Durban. That wasn't like some little convention over here. No, they rocked the whole city. Okay, all right. The whole south of South Africa was rocked. All right, majorly. So for that event to be so big, and then 3 days later after that, the 9/11, which after all of the research, we know that that was an implode, right? Implode. Yet just the illusion, the power of propaganda, right? It was like this whole major thing at airports. A whole major thing. It's interesting that convention was about racism, xenophobia, all of that. This 9/11 incited more of it, right?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Like, you gotta look, check it out. You're gonna see why we making the correlation.
Definitely. That's the Durban. That's the Durban 400. I was reading something at the same time. The Durban 400. That's the document. You can look at it on YouTube, right?
Yes.
It's on YouTube. Yeah. So check it out. Download the document and look at the documentary. Talks a lot about, really shows how this enemy that we're facing in the United States of America is a global enemy. It's a global oppression. And it has affected our people all over the world, which kind of leads us to our topic, because we as an African people, being in America, we've been taught that we should be disconnected from our brothers and sisters from throughout the diaspora as well as on the continent. But as you pointed out, Mama Ayo, you named all type of people of African descent who are making charges against this system of white supremacy, and it's sounding a lot like the brothers and sisters who are here. So it's like we got a whole lot in common, whether we want to accept that or not. So why is Pan Afrikanism so important? Is it so important? Is that something we should even focus on? Is something, because I know we and a lot of our a lot of our pledges, we say we're a new African revolutionary nationalists, Pan Africanists, freedom fighters. So, what's so important about that Pan Africanist part? I open that up to anybody.
Well, us being new African revolutionary nationalists, that's us getting ourselves together. Oh, making sure that we are aligning ourselves with new African principles so that we can build this particular okay that stands on our principles, and it is not rooted in capitalism. And we have our whole plan of action for these 5 states and beyond. That's what it is, right? Yet, once that takes, it needs support. And who better to support you than those that look like you around the world going through some of the same issues as you in terms of the capitalist, imperialist world, right? So, it's a matter of recognizing that we are our story and our struggle is connected. Why? Because we are the Aboriginal people of the planet, right? And because of our historical reality with this beast, with these devils, with these crackers out the Caucasus Mountains, with capitalism, imperialism, racism, because we have this same relationship, it makes so perfect sense that we connect in ways and means in which we can, building those relationships, building those relationships and rebuilding those relationships because of our historical reality. And it also takes me, like, for me personally, and this is what I witness all over the world, whether you call yourself an Aboriginal that's come from the Americas, or if you from Africa, in terms of all the different ethnic groups, because we got thousands of them that speak originally thousands of different languages. Yet the interesting thing about it is all Aboriginal ethnic groups, spirituality is pretty much along the same lines, right? We might have different names, specific things, but different the way we explain spirituality, we have a similarity that connects us all, right? It just connects us all. And so to me, it's important for us to make sure that we are eliminating ethnicity, because it has done us no good at all. It has not been good. This is when we say, for me personally, when I hear Pan-Africanism, I hear this is our way to survive this. You understand what I'm saying? Like, how are we, realistically speaking, going to survive this war of imperialism that has wrecked us all over the world, right? Imperialism, capitalism, now neo-colonialism in these places where, quote unquote, oh, this place received their independence back in so and so and so year. Yet these outside entities still have 100% control, and we got people in blackface bidding for the enemy, right? So, these are the things that we have to navigate through. So it's very important for us to if we're going to survive this, and we are going to survive this, we have to link. We have to create partnerships. We cannot be ethnocentric anymore, y'all. It is very expensive. It has cost our whole worldwide freedom, literally. And I yield.
Definitely, well said. Well said. Mama, you have anything you want to add?
I definitely concur, because when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we don't want to have to be at war with brothers and sisters who look like us. We want to have what we call social, economic, medical, agricultural cooperation, because everything that you have to survive with does not exist within the 5 states of the South. We have our own indigenous natural raw materials. We have the skill sets, but we do not have all of the things that this country utilizes to be a superpower. We would like access to cocoa. We would like access to tropical fruits and herbs and vegetables. We would like access to alternative building materials. We want to do what we call an exchange of not only professions, but an exchange of technology, and utilizing and doing fair business with brothers and sisters who have the bauxite, who have the vibranium, just being funny, who have the cobalt, who have all of those building materials that are yet to be discovered, you know, so that we can be in harmony with the earth. So Pan Africanism has been alive for a very, very long time. We're going to be speaking about someone here who the beginnings, the belief, the, you know, just the being able to put some of those visions on paper. And he's not the only one, just one of our elders that we're getting ready to highlight today. We've always, if we look at the 8 strategic elements in which that guides our work here in the Republic of New Africa, that's just one of the things that we're going to do. That's a strategy. That is a goal. That is an objective of what we do within the Republic of New Africa. You not only look at your human resources at home, but you look at abroad. If we say that we are the founding, that we have the founding father, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and we are piggybacking upon the Haitian Revolution and all of the uprisings with all of our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, and Marcus Mosiah Garvey that says clearly, that laid the colors out for us, that we have adopted, that we are Africans at home and abroad. That is capital. That is Pan-Africanism. Period. Africa for Africans at home and abroad. His declaration addresses not only the nationalistic ills and troubles that happened to us as a Negro people, a colored people during that time, 1920s. It addressed what was happening in the Caribbean islands as well as Africa. There's no way we can get around it. There's no way. We are definitely what we call nationalist Pan-African freedom fighters, revolutionary freedom fighters. And with that, I yield.
Ashe.
Definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say, Mama Ayo, where can we get some of this vibranium? What you say? Did you say
that vibranium?
Yeah, I need to get me some of that right there.
That's that Pan-African unity. That's the Wakanda we're looking for.
Exactly. But I mean, we talk about that, like, and it's fun to talk about the Black Panther Wakanda. But when you look at the resources, the natural resources in Africa, it ain't really that big of a fairy tale. Pan-Africanism is, like you said, Sister Sa, it is really our survival, because being that they have used the strategy of divide and conquer so effective, that's the only way they can maintain their survival, because their survival is based on the exploitation of our birthright, of what is naturally ours. I mean, I don't know if we found vibranium yet, but we found everything else in Africa. Right now, like in Somalia, people talk about, how was everything that's going on in Somalia. Every place you find conflict in Africa, you also found an abundance of natural resources. In Somalia, you have an abundance of uranium. You can't make a nuclear bomb without uranium. That is the key ingredient. It's found right there. So when you talk about a military might, Africa should have the best militaries, period. But because of neo-colonialism and imperialism and how they exploit people and divide and conquer us and use these systems of exploitation and oppression, they gain control over things that we should naturally have, that should naturally give us a leg up on everything, like we once did. We once upon a time, we ruled the planet. It was a black planet. Wasn't no white folks to even talk about. So understanding that we are the same people. We are really one
Mhm.
people, and we share the common struggle. We share a common enemy. We've been affected and afflicted by the common strategies and common tactics. Understanding that and recognizing that, and that's the beautiful thing about like Pan-Africanism being a movement of not only recognizing who we are collectively, but a movement into acting in concert collectively to make sure that we as a whole are taken care of. Now, you always struggle where you are, but you don't, your individual struggle does not disconnect you from the whole. We still connected with the whole, because like you said, as we struggled for our independence in New Africa, our basic survival will be our connection with the motherland, connection with Africa, because all we got to do, everything we need is right there.
Right.
Everything we
Exactly.
need.
Right.
We just got to get all those invaders, the foreigners, up out of there, and reconnect with who we are and be who we are. So,
Yeah.
I'm with you, with both of you all. Pan-Africanism is directly connected to our survival, not only just surviving, but to thriving and to live and be those people that we were always destined to be. And I
Exactly.
yield on that.
It sounds like, for me, it sounds like Pan-African. It just sound like you know what I mean? It's just a wise way to, considering our reality, our world reality as Black people all over the world is just wisdom.
Mhm.
It does nothing else makes sense. And I know a lot of people. I have to share this perspective because this has been a perspective that I didn't even know really was a thing, but it definitely is a thing. The perspective that people don't want to relate themselves to being Pan-African because they don't necessarily, specifically people here in America, don't necessarily think themselves as being African because their generation, quote unquote, removed, right? And
Mhm.
then we have Black people here in America also saying that, um, you know, uh, feeling like, and I don't know if it's because they feel like if they connect themselves and saying I'm Pan-African, that erases the fact that they're Choctaw, or the fact that they're Igbo, or the fact that they're, you know what I'm saying? Like, I
Mhm.
don't comprehend totally how the brain is working, but I'm just sharing with the public. These are some of the conversations that are taking place. And for me, it's not necessarily erasing who you are. Be who you are. Whoever you are, you need to stand on it 100% in principle, because African Aboriginal people all over the world stand on the same universal law order principle. We just do. So whatever you call yourself, you need to be on code. That yeah. Once we do that, then maybe we can have some conversations amongst one another. But so many of us are not even on code. We claiming all of these different things. We're not on code. New Africans. Some of us ain't on code. Everybody needs to be on code, whatever you saying, so we can work this Pan-African thing out, because that is our survival. That is the wisdom. That is what's going to get us up out of this particular situation. But we need to be in our right mind space. And our right mind space is doing exactly what Brother Prophecy said and Mama Ayo said, just being who you are. Who you are.
Yeah,
And definitely be in
100%.
alignment, because you talk about the world owing Africa and its people. If we That is a contradiction if you say that you are the descendant of an enslaved African, and we know that we lost over 100 million, the largest contingent going to Brazil, and we done dropped off everywhere, because every person that comes from the Caribbean and the other parts of Africa will tell you this. Yes, we were touched by the transatlantic slave trade. Yes, we were touched by this slave trade. Yes, we were touched by this slave trade. So when we say the world, when we talk about the countries of Britain, Portugal, Spain, as we said, France, Germany, the Netherlands, the so-called Big Six of the European powers, it has transformed everything. And those brothers and sisters who are in the Caribbean and on some parts of Africa, if they speak Spanish, you know who colonized them. If they speak Portuguese, you know who colonized them. If they speak French, you know who colonized them. If they speak English, you know before 1776 who colonized them. And after that, you know who that colony became, which is the United Snakes of America. So it's just continue. Two colonizers came. So some people speak French, some people speak English. So what are we talking about? We of course, and our explanation of who we are as new Africans, we have come from every lineage that there is. Some of our people are coming out of Haiti. They're coming through the Caribbean. They were dropped off at the U.S. Some were taken away from the U.S. What are we talking about here now? I mean, I get it. If we say we're new African, we are a culmination of all of that. And many of us, our people have mixed with the so-called Aboriginal and Indigenous. What are we calling ourselves again? New Africans. And that in itself says we are Pan-African in nature, because we've acknowledged that we are from those bloodlines, and those bloodlines came straight out of Africa, as they say, straight out of Africa. Yeah. Kwame Nkrumah said our independence is meaningless until Africa is free. Africa, because that's the key. Everybody chops off Africa, and we don't need to chop. We need to be in harmony with Africa. We need to be in alignment with Africa. So there's an even flow. That triangular trade, as we say, should be for us, by us, with us. And I yield.
Yeah. Definitely. And to pick up on something you said, Sar, about the people who feel disconnected from Africa for whatever reason, whether you feel you're so far removed or you feel that you're indigenous. Break down just facts, basic scientific facts. Aboriginal people are still African people. There are people who just came from Africa a really, 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 really long time ago, but they still African people. In fact, when you look at the Americas, the first people who were ever discovered in America, the oldest bones are of African people. Matter of fact, they're the same as the Aboriginal people. Is that some of them went over to Australia, or Melanesia, and then some of them came to the Americas. They're the oldest ones found, a lot older than the people who they call the American Indians. All of them, they were African, but they're still African people. If you look at the theory of Mansa Musa making the convoy to the Americas, been sending all of those ships. And the belief that they made it over here because even Christopher Columbus has writings of these African people who had the tips of their spears made of gold, just like they were over with Mansa Musa. The same people, the evidence, they still African people. So regardless to what you claim, because African people are the first people on the planet, period. You're still African. Right now, you got white people who talking about, yeah, we're African because we're our ancestors and all that kind of stuff. And but you up there too embarrassed, to say I don't want to be no African. Just like my poem said, you call me anything African, you could be my nigga, my dog, my boy, whatever. Just don't call me no African. Get over that. We all, are African people, regardless, because it's like the science, the history, everything backs that up. Period.
What's interesting to me? I don't know why we have it in our head, and I'm saying, really speaking, as Black people that live in America, that African people was not traveling to the Americas prior, and all that. I mean, as if white people was the first to travel to America, like 1492. Wasn't nobody else traveling up in between. That's the part that wows my Like we give so much credit. Like just to me, crediting Black people in general in terms of our ability to navigate the world, white people, that's a big red flag. Yeah, to me, that's like you have no. To me, that's no self-love, no self-confidence, no self-love. Thought that everything started with your oppressor, and that's a problem.
Exactly.
Very much so.
Exactly.
Very much so.
So yeah, definitely. So yeah, Pan African, very important, very important. But yeah, we got an individual who actually coined the phrase Africa for the Africans, which I actually thought it was Marcus Garvey, but this individual who was before Marcus Garvey actually coined that phrase, and he wrote a book about Black people having their own and doing for self. And we're gonna talk about this, brother, when we get back right here at the New African Perspective, y'all. Free the land.
I am defending
the land.
Free the land. Any means necessary. I'm Brother Zumbi New Afrique.
Opiemi New Afrique.
And we represent the Harriet Tubman District on the eastern shore of Maryland. We're here at Nation Day 55 here in Charleston, South Carolina.
Enjoying it. Here to represent the Harriet Tubman District on the eastern shore. And just want to commemorate and celebrate the 55th year of the PGRNA.
Right on. Time to break it down.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Atadra Jasiri from Columbus, Georgia. I'm with the People's Party for Independence. Our organization, we're standing on 5 principles of defense, education, economics, politics, and culture. And in doing that, we think if we can control these 5 principles, then we'll be able to keep the community safely and organized. And in keeping the community safely and organized, we know that we need to own, operate, and control the community. And in doing so, we think 5 institutions will help us, and that's a grocery store, a school, a hospital, a bank, and a community center. We've already purchased a community center. Next, we're going to implement a grocery store for our people. So we can all come together and unite to fight against all the ills inside of our communities. We'll be able to free the land, we'll be able to govern ourselves, and we'll be able to put ourselves in a position to where we can have some wiggle room. We might not always be free, but we'll be free enough to where we can breathe. So that's what we're looking to do, to have survival programs in place pending revolution. And we want to work with everybody around the world, work with everybody within the Republic, so that we can have some type of cohesion, some type of common unity to do what we need to do in order to put ourselves in a position to be what we need to be.
As young people, you have to develop a sense of courage, right? I like to say freedom ain't free.
Martin Robinson Delaney was an influential African-American abolitionist, physician, writer, and one of the most prominent figures in the 19th century struggle for civil rights. He was born on May 6, 1812 in Charlestown, Virginia, which is now West Virginia, during a time of profound racial oppression and slavery in the United States. Despite facing significant challenges as a Black individual in that era, Delaney obtained a formal education, which was a rarity for African Americans at the time. He attended a racially segregated school in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, where his family had moved to escape slavery. Delaney's thirst for knowledge led him to become an expert in various subjects, including medicine, law, and literature. Delaney's accomplishments were manifold. In 1833, he worked as an apprentice to a physician and eventually became a licensed doctor, making him one of the first African American doctors in the United States. His medical practice served white and black patients, but he mainly focused on providing health care to the African American community, often neglected by mainstream medical services. As an ardent abolitionist, Delaney utilized his writing skills to advocate for the rights of African Americans and the abolition of slavery. In 1843, he co-founded and edited The Mystery, one of the first Black-owned and operated newspapers in the United States. Through his publication, he championed the fight for emancipation and encouraged Black self-reliance and empowerment. Delaney also collaborated with Frederick Douglass to publish content in Douglass's North Star newspaper. Delaney's most renowned work is his 1852 book, The Condition, Elevation, Immigration, and Destiny of the Colored People of the United States. In his seminal work, he discussed the harsh realities of slavery, called for African Americans to unite, and advocated for the idea of Black Americans immigrating to Africa as a means to establish an independent Black nation. His commitment to the cause of African American equality led him to collaborate with prominent abolitionists like Frederick Douglass, with whom he shared a belief in self-determination for Black people. Delaney served as a recruiter for the Union Army during the American Civil War, advocating for the enlistment of African American soldiers and supporting the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, a renowned Black military unit. After the Civil War, Delaney continued to push for racial equality and served in various government positions, including as a major in the Freedmen's Bureau, which aimed to help newly freed slaves transition to a life of freedom and autonomy. Martin Delaney's life and accomplishments left a significant impact on the fight for civil rights and the pursuit of racial equality in the United States. He was a pioneering figure, breaking barriers in medicine, journalism, and civil rights activism, and his legacy continues to inspire generations of African Americans and advocates for social justice. Delaney passed away on January 24, 1855, leaving behind a powerful legacy of determination, intellect, and unwavering commitment to the advancement of Black people. To Mr. Martin Robinson Delaney, we proudly stand on your shoulders. For more information, make sure you visit my website at www.
All right, and that's a little bit about our great ancestor, the one and only Martin Delaney. And if you have not had the opportunity to read his book, The Conditions, Elevations, Immigration, and Destiny of the Colored People of the United States, you should look at it. You should read it because, you know, way back then, before the Emancipation Proclamation and all that good stuff, this brother was calling for independent, you know, African state, and for us to have our own state. So this whole idea that we're talking about now, it's nothing new. It's been going on for a very, very long time. So what y'all think about our ancestor, Mr. Martin Delaney?
Oh, he's very, very powerful. When I say actually making sure that he had, if you notice, he had multiple skills. So that means he was, you know, just very, very gifted. And if he was an abolitionist, and remember, he controlled several newspapers and publications. So he was very, very into the spoken word. There's something mighty about the power of the written word. And he was able to definitely manifest that. But just to know that he stood firm about we cannot be free. We cannot be self-determining in a place where racism is not going to be kind of prevalent in the society. And he spoke about that as being part of the abolition movement. He said the white abolitionists are still exhibiting signs of racism. So he literally called on us to just go back to Africa to find a place where we can set up our nation of returning enslaved descendants. He did travel up and down the Niger River, but before he could really do a settling, he was called back, of course, to the Civil War. And then he utilized his services to help the Union win, thinking that they were going to be given their 40 acres and a mule. Thinking they were going to be given they're 40 acres and a mule. Come on, y'all. Let's not forget our history. Let's put it into perspective. So what happened? He became very active in the Freedmen's Bureau. He invested in some of the, of course, some of the attempts to get to Liberia, and he eventually gave that up and decided he was going to go, I guess, to Wilberforce, Ohio, to finish off his education there, and ended up, kind of transitioning in 1855. But yet he spoke about keeping the race pure, understanding who we are and what we are. We were only 200, maybe 50 years away out of slavery, of enslavement. So it's something that we have to think about. He kept, and I think he laid some of the foundation for Garvey to take up that mantle, and Booker T, to do for ourselves, to continue to honor the race, to not buy the yoke doke, because our people are mixed in, mixed down, mixed up. So he called for those things, that for us to stand firm. So and I think he wrote a book in 1879, The Principles of Ethnology, a book that argued for race pride, not only race pride, but race purity, which is something Marcus Mozambique Garvey was definitely about. You need to identify, no matter what your circumstances are. You identify with the, with the race, because you couldn't predict your circumstances that brought you here. But once you become elevated, known, you got to be about for the redemption of the race, period. So he laid those foundations. I mean, he did a lot of work, wrote a lot, which is something that when somebody writes, you cannot dispute what is written. You cannot dispute what is written. Nobody can tell you what he felt, because he told you himself what he believed in. So I feel like he's a very, very strong founding father of this movement, for the liberation movement. And I yield.
Definitely agree 1,000%. 1,000%. I see Brother Zumbi checking in. How you doing, Brother Zumbi? Free the land,
Free
you
the
come,
land,
right?
free the land, free the land.
Yes. Let's see, Brother Yara, can we watch that documentary on Sunday in Naba? That's talking about the one of the Durban 400. We'll see. I think it depends on how many memes I got Sunday. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Confidence. Zoro. Okay.
Oh, Confidence. How are you?
Yeah.
Free the land.
Free the land. Martin Delaney landed in the kingdom of Abeokuta, which became Nigeria, but was turned away by the British in the kingdom working together. That's interesting. That's a piece of information that I did not know about Martin Delaney.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I know, in Nigeria, things kind of going down, because they just kicked out their French colonizers.
That's correct.
Well, the colonized government that was set up by their French, the puppet government, they just kicked them out, and things going down. There's a lot of revolutionary activity going on the
in
continent.
that area.
Yep. Nowadays. So that's what's up. Yeah. So I think we did it again. Another good episode. Informative episodes. I've learned some things. We've all learned some things, and as always, we encourage everyone to continue learning, because I always say that a fool is a person who think they know everything, but they really don't. So don't be a fool. Continue to learn. But anything y'all want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Just to pay attention. September, of course, we want to highlight Pan Afrikanism, one of our leading Pan Africanists around the world. Of course, we'll be focusing on Kwame Nkrumah, hopefully next week, because he left legacy. I mean, all he did was stand on the shoulders of all these beautiful women and men. And how we always were taught, that's my blood responsibility. So I'm looking forward to more and more conversations, because many of us are Pan Africanists, because a blow against one of us is a blow against all of us, no matter where we are.
Yep.
Definitely. You got anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here? Mom,
Y'all got right now. Okay, we just got right now. We need to make some serious decisions right now. It's an emergency, like for real, right now. So whatever we need to rectify within ourselves, we need to be doing that self-work. We need to be very adamant about it, very intentional about it. And once we feel like we in a space where we can actually link with other people on the same tip, then we need to do so.
Exactly.
And feel back.
Exactly. So we got a Foundation of the Nation coming up tomorrow.
Did we do one last week? Yes, we did one last week. Yeah.
I think last week we talked about a very important topic of basically the changing of the seasons, I believe, and making sure you're fortified and doing the correct things you need to do in preparation for the weather to change. And that was like very, very insightful and very important, So, because like preventative medicine is the best medicine you can take,
That's right. Prevention.
There we go. All of our Aboriginal medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed.
Back to the roots.
Yep.
As they say.
I see Brother Zumi chiming in again and said, free the land. His death year was 1885, not 1855. And you're absolutely correct. I think the film that we just showed, the guy said he died in 1855, but I think he put a text up under it said correction 1885.
1885, yes, definitely so.
For pointing that out. But yeah, make sure y'all join us tomorrow on the Foundation of the Nation, and I know they're gonna have a great topic as always. And join us next week as we do our thing again, and every week after that. And let's get active, get in the streets, and put these beautiful words that we always talk about and all the things that we've gotten good at expressing. Let's put them into action, y'all, and make some real change. I'm Brother Prophecy, from Io, Sister Sa, Madam President Sa, and Madam Vice President, Mama Io Deli. This is the New African Perspective. See y'all again next week, y'all. We love y'all. Free the land.
Free the land. Right.
America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb.
Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land, not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land.